how you how have you dealt with this lockdown? It must be weird to experience
Uh,
Vegas empty.
right, yeah, yeah. So now I'm currently in Los Angeles, California.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, so I'm no longer in Vegas as of about 3.5 years. But how
Okay.
am I dealing with this lockdown? I'm actually loving it personally.
Hmm.
I'm one of those people that I can do more like in silence in the confines of my own home, and so I'm kind of a hermit crab and I'm introverted. So I actually love the digital meetings through
Mm.
Zoom and working from home. I don't have to be in a suit. Usually I'm in a suit.
Yeah.
That's our attire at the office. But it's just an adjustment. The one thing I do miss is just kind of like just the knowing of, okay, hey, I'm gonna go out to a coffee shop and meet with someone like yourself and have a good
Hmm.
conversation or whatever. So that's a little interesting, but we're managing it. It's the new normal.
It is. It's changed things to a way that I think a lot of people are going to be more comfortable networking now. I think
Yeah, I agree. I
because
agree. Yeah.
just
Why do you think that is?
I mean, for me, like we took a big hit as a business when it first was announced that everything was going to be
Yeah.
locked down, right? So I thought, like, what you can sit down and sulk, or
Right.
look for excuses, blame anyone else, or you can use what the things that you have, the social
Yeah.
media pages, and if you keep putting your work out there and keep showing people what you're doing and showing them what you can do,
Yeah.
things will come back to you if you keep networking via social media as well. And we started promoting these new artists in a very genuine way, like without asking for anything back.
Right.
You build genuine connections like that. I feel like a lot of success comes from places that you never expected. You're genuinely making connections with people and helping them out, and in return, things will come to you. So
Yeah.
yeah, going off of that, things have been going great.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Yeah, I try to look at things, kind of glass half full as well, and just try to make the most of it, and use it as an opportunity to like, even though I'm a hermit crab, but use it as an
Mm,
opportunity to network and meet other people, and try to just add value digitally as
mm-hmm.
much as you can, right? You know.
Absolutely. And then the UFC came back, and you're in the UFC. That must have
Yeah,
been a relief as well.
yeah, so that honestly was kind of a concern, right?
Yeah.
Being at CAA, we're a big conglomerate sports and entertainment agency. You hear of all different agencies laying off people and having to just because of no one could have planned for this global pandemic. And honestly, I was one of the ones worried. You know what I mean?
Mm,
Combat sports in my agency is, small, right,
mm,
comparatively to the other sports that we represent and clients that we represent. So my initial thought when it hit was, shoot, they're gonna they're gonna lay me off, and it's not,
damn.
necessarily like a reflection of myself, but maybe like, hey, if they got to start trimming fat, right, that I may be affected. So man, I was just like praying that wasn't the case, and thankfully we actually had like a worldwide Zoom meeting, where the president Richard Lovett addressed the company, and he
Mm-hmm.
said, "Look, like these are trying times, but and you guys are seeing all the rumors out because in the industry you kind of know what your competitors are doing. Like WME is laying people off, Endeavor's
Yeah.
laying people off, and other agencies laying people off. So us being one of the big agencies, we're like, okay, shoot, well, we're naturally going to be next, and I'm grateful and just so blessed to know that CAA made it a stance to try not to do the opposite, to keep all of our jobs. And I'm pretty sure to date, like they haven't laid off one person, big or small, which is a huge relief, man. And I was just like at my parents' house, just being so
Biting your
grateful for
nails.
my yeah for my job, because I got laid
Yeah.
off from UFC. Win
Oh, was
Endeavor
that
5.
back in the day? Oh,
Yeah,
when they were
yeah,
bought. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So what's that?
right. So,
Tell me about it. Let's
man,
start.
so
Actually, yeah. How did you roll into the
go
UFC?
ahead. How did I get into UFC?
Yeah.
So I lived in Las Vegas, right? I went out after high school because I played football. I played college football at UNLV, and I graduated early, so I still had a year left of my scholarship to use. And
Mm.
I wanted to always get my master's degree. I always promised my mom I'll get a master's degree. I didn't know why. I just felt like I wanted to get it. I think it sounded cool, master's degree,
Mm.
and so I ended up getting my master's degree in sports management. And throughout grad school, I was working as a personal stylist at Nordstrom, which is a clothing retailer.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm aware of that one. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I was working at Nordstrom, and one of my clients was his name is Mike Mossholder. He was one of the executives at UFC. So I
Mm-hmm.
found out what he did. I asked him if I can get an internship. Networking, right? Asked him if I
Yeah.
can get an internship, and he came in uh, one day and he was like, "Hey, come into my office. Here's my assistant's contact, and we'll do an interview." So I went in for the interview, and they asked us, the normal questions and things. So I'm telling him my life story, and he's like, "Oh, I remember you from somewhere," and I'm like, "Yeah, like I know you from Nordstrom. You're my client." He's like, "No, no, no. Uh, I was a guest speaker in your class when you were in college, and I remember you asking me a business question because I always tried to start
Oh,
businesses in college."
yeah, yeah.
So full circle, I'm in his office, and we're like, "Oh wow, we kind of knew each other, but didn't really know." And so that was a serendipitous moment, one of the many serendipitous moments in my life. And he offered me a full-time position instead of an internship. So that's how I got started with
Wow.
UFC.
And this is
Yeah.
when the organization was small, right?
Yeah, it
Before it
was
was
just
bought by the Fertitta brothers, was it right? Like,
right,
okay.
exactly. So I was in partnership sales. So I sold sponsorships. So the mats on the logos that
Mm,
you see
yeah.
today, right? Like those were the deals that I was doing for the US. And yeah, I think I was there from 2011 to 2016. And I feel like, in hindsight, those were kind of like the glory days, or at least like the height of UFC, because it
Mm,
was a very small company, but I mean, we're a global company, right? So it was, I think, like 300 and something employees. We all wore many hats. And, when I think it was August of 2016, we got bought out. But prior to that, there was like some rumors like, "Hey, this company is going to buy us for a lot of money." And we're like, "Hey, that's great. That's awesome. All of our hard work, right,
it's paying
is
off.
we're going to all reap the rewards." Right.
Mm,
And we even started talking about in the office, like, "Oh, we're going to get some of that, some of that money. Like everyone's going to
yeah.
get raises and
Everyone's get a
things." And
1% cut.
right, right, right. Obviously that wasn't the case. And we're even trying to see like who was going to get laid off, like just not knowing, because they did at one point. We had a company meeting. Dana and Lorenzo addressed us all, and if I remember correctly, they were like, "Hey, everyone is good. Nothing's gonna happen. Like, we're not being sold." And come to find out, we were sold, and come to find out, there were layoffs. And unfortunately, I was one of the probably 100 that got laid off because of redundancies, right? So they already had a position.
Mm,
Some guy at Endeavor already did what I did. So now that big brother came in, they're like, "Hey, you're no longer needed." So that was I was young in my career, but I was at a position to where, I loved the company. It was a lot of fun. I found early success in my career because of not just myself. I'm never naive to that, because it kind of takes multiple things to make like magic happen, right? And I felt like I
mm-hmm.
was a part of a magical time with Ronda Rousey just coming into the scene. Conor McGregor was just getting
Wow,
big.
yeah.
Anderson Silva just took his first loss, right? So I felt like all this stuff kind of, culminated to this great event and time in UFC. And then unfortunately, like, phone calls started blowing off the hook one day. It was October 18th, I think it was October 18th,
You remember the date?
2016. I remember the day. I
Okay.
have a video. I actually videotaped the entire process of, like, doomsday, that we called it, right, at UFC, because we knew
Understandably
that,
so.
yeah, well, so all the rumors started becoming more and more truthful, and we knew that, okay, they're making cuts today, right? So I came in. I actually wore a UFC shirt, right? I wore
Mm,
a cape that I had in my office, and I brought games. I brought board games because I wanted to, because I knew a lot of people were worried. I wasn't worried. One, because I was young. I don't have a family, like, what I mean,
mm-hmm,
not a wife
mm-hmm.
and kids, but I was more concerned for those that did have families and wife and kids. And people in our office, some people were, just kind of grim, not knowing. So I brought in Connect Four, and I was playing games with my colleagues just to, like, try to lighten
Ease
the
the
mood, because
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm a very, like, light-hearted person, and I try not to, like, let people see that in the back of my mind. I'm worried too, but I'm not trying to make it like a bad situation. Try to stay positive as much as
Mm.
I can. And then, yeah, man, my phone ended up ringing, and it's like, HR, I think, calls you and say, hey, security is going to come get you. So I grabbed my box. I have the video still to this day, and
That is
every anniversary,
crazy.
October 18th, I kind of look at it, and that's where I felt like I lost it all. Like, I was,
Mm.
this young successful guy, like,
Yeah.
working for a huge super cool company. You know what I mean? My first, I'm the first in my family to, like, have an executive job like this. I go to college, like, and then all of that was seemingly, like, stripped away, for nothing but a business deal.
Yeah.
you know
Strange how
so
these
it's
things
tough.
work, because people might think, yeah, it got bought out, everybody got rich, indeed, like you guys were thinking. But
Yeah.
it's the contrary. And this is a good segue, man, because
Yeah.
I was gonna ask you about the tipping point and what's like this turning point in your life, that
Hmm.
like the adversity that you had to get over to really push yourself professionally and reach the level of success that you're getting at now. You know,
Yeah.
so okay, you get back home. What are you thinking, and what do you do?
Yeah. Yeah, right. Naturally, when anyone who has lost their job, whether fired, laid off, whatever, um, feels that feeling of, like, inadequacy,
Yeah,
right? And you start questioning what you could have done differently, or what, they didn't see in you, and you're just full of emotions. You're angry. You're because you put
yeah,
your time and energy and effort into a job, whether you love it or not, but you're trying to earn a living for yourself. And so all those emotions were going through my mind, while at the same time, like under the surface, right? But I tried to be very positive as much as I can, and rely on my faith that, something good is going to come of this, and I'll land on my feet. The scariest part, and this was the turning point, because not only did I lose my job, but 2 months prior, I found out that I had heart disease, and that I
ah,
would need surgery. Right. So
that's a
actually,
tough one. Yeah.
yeah. So my first call was not to my mom or to my girl, but my first call was actually to my doctor. Because when I was walking out with my box of stuff, leaving the office, I had to call and say, hey, is there any way you guys can rush my surgery? I just got laid off from my job, and I don't want my insurance. I don't want to lose my insurance. Right. So the doctor said, hey, no problem. We'll get you in next week. So 7 days later, exactly, October 25th, 2016, I had heart surgery. So to go back to your question of, like, the turning point actually happened when I was just getting back home from heart surgery. So I was jobless,
Mm-hmm.
right? I just had heart surgery. I had no money to my name. I had to leave my apartment and go move in with my girl because I couldn't afford anything. I was,
Yeah.
trying to go through the whole unemployment process. I was trying to figure out everything, but that was the turning point in my life, because I had a choice to make whether either to sulk, right,
Yeah.
and be depressed and go in a downward spiral, or I can try to find whatever glimpse of hope or positivity that I could from these two like life changing situations. So that's what when I started trying to go on the positive side, and I was reading all these books and audio books and watching all these YouTubes about positivity and like thinking, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm not naturally a negative person. I'm naturally a positive person. But those two life changing moments, getting laid off and having no job and feeling inadequate, right, because I had heart surgery, it was really hard for me. So I went into like a little bit of a depression. So that was my way of getting out of the depression, is trying to keep my mindset positive. And
Mm-hmm.
thankfully enough, and I'll kind of turn it over to you, but I got a phone call a couple months later from CAA, where I'm at today, a random phone call
How do
from
they
CAA.
find you then? Was it a connect from the UFC or is it?
Yeah, yeah. So they found me through one of my colleagues at the UFC Canada office. So I guess what happened was, and bless her heart, she's an amazing human being who I still just owe to this day. But and I won't name her name without her permission. But
Mm,
she CAA, I guess, had a couple clients, right? They had GSP, they had Cain Velasquez at the time, and they were kind of just in the space a little bit, but just kind of testing the waters. And
yeah.
I guess they wanted to kind of grow a little bit more, right? My predecessor was actually a baseball agent, but just doing MMA kind of on the side. He was no longer with the company, so it left this open position, right,
Mm,
that they needed to fill. So they were asking questions with the relationships that they had, and the girl from the Canada office said, "Hey, you guys should call Marquel. Like he's a good colleague. He's good at what he does. Yada yada yada." So I was at my girlfriend's house with a bandage on, my defibrillator, uh, in my underwear, eating cereal, and I got a phone call from the biggest sports and entertainment agency in the world, and they said, hey, we heard about you. You're in the space. They actually asked me how I would grow the space. So I was just very honest and transparently. I said, well, I would do this and this and this, and they said, hey, can you come down for a interview in Los Angeles? So I drove down to LA from Vegas, 4-hour trip. Uh, I was actually late because I didn't realize how LA traffic really was terrible in the morning.
right.
So I got there. I met with the head of baseball and the head of one of the heads of CAA Sports. Did my interview, and then a week later, they offered me the job in Vegas. While I lived in Vegas, so they offered me the job to move to LA, and I lived in a hotel for a month. And
Wow.
yeah, and here I am today.
What a
Serendipitous. And I had
it
no
is.
idea what CAA was. I had no idea who CAA was, what they did. I just needed a
But
job, right?
did you
Like
have
I was
any like
looking.
aspirations to you didn't have any aspirations to be in entertainment or did you?
Actually, I had aspirations to be in entertainment. From when I was young, I always wanted to be in acting, which
Mm,
was completely out of the norm, right?
yeah.
And it was so funny because when I was, unemployed, when I just gotten laid off, I asked my girl, like, what should I do? And I'm like, okay, well, I can look at this glass half full. Like, this is a fresh start. Okay,
Mhm.
maybe maybe I'll move back because I'm originally from Southern California, about an hour east of LA. And so I said, let's maybe move to LA or move back in with my parents, and I'll commute to LA and try to find an acting gig or try
Mm,
to go to acting classes or whatever. And that's how yeah, I didn't have any aspirations to become an agent at all. I didn't really think about it, you know. But when my friend told me like, hey, you should Google CAA, because before interviews I never like do that because I don't like to prejudge a company, just like I don't like people prejudging me based on like
Yeah.
a resume or whatever. And so yeah, unbeknownst to me, they were the biggest and the brightest. So I'm like, okay, at least I can come here and just put my head down and work as hard as I can and learn from the biggest, and just figure out what I'm supposed to do.
So were
Yeah.
you were okay being, or at least does it feel like a 9 to 5 kind of situation?
No, no, it's you know, agent's definitely not 9 to 5. It's
Hmm.
24/7. You
Yeah.
know, I felt that I would be um like better to transition into the agent life because being an agent is all about relationships, and I love, you know, having good solid relationships as best I can, right? Like, and I like to help people and add value to people, and that's how I saw it. I didn't see it as like, hey, I needed to go to agent school and go to Harvard Law and have all these
Yeah.
credentials. It's just like at the core of it, you know, if you're a good person and you try your best to look after others' best interests, which a normal human being should probably do anyway, then
Exactly.
success will come. So that's how I got into it, and I loved it because the culture of CAA fosters that, like just looking after one another, and that's, I will never ever forget like that type of feeling that CAA just provides.
It's funny because people always tend to forget this. They can't put themselves in other people's shoes when they help other people, or like you can't sort of remember the feeling that you get when someone just did something selflessly for you. It could be something small, like just a mention or something, whatever,
Yeah,
or hey, good work, you know. And
yeah.
it holds so much power because even this lady who sort of gave you the chance, right? You mentioned from you got the call
Hmm.
from CAA.
Yeah,
You know, who would have thought that you wouldn't probably never think that she would offer you that job, or in the end that it would, you know, save your career, maybe, you know.
yeah.
And
And it was probably so harmless. You know, she probably
yeah,
just, you know, didn't know the impact that she had on me and still holds
hmm,
on me. You know.
exactly. Those are these small things in fostering relationships that in the end is the core of networking. And to me, like networking is just the core of success if you want to build multiple, you know, maybe multiple streams of income, even just grow in a genuine way. There's a lot of people who just want to break others down or be hateful, you know, and just instead of being
Yeah.
positive and taking that selfless route, and you know, good things will come back to you. And I'm not really
Right.
much of the whole like spiritual, you know,
For sure.
manifestation has a thing.
Yeah.
It does work in a way, but not like people think when they say, "Oh, speak it, receive it, believe it, receive it." Right?
Right. Right.
Like it doesn't
Yeah. No.
directly work like that, but indirectly, you see how it
It,
works now.
yeah. Indirectly, because I think it puts you in a frame of mind, right?
Exactly.
Like of trust, and call it trust, call it faith, call it whatever you want. But it's interesting, like those little things, right? Networking, right? I used to think that networking, I remember working at UFC, I went to like one of the conferences. I used to think that networking was about getting an advantage for yourself, right? And
Yeah.
whatever you needed to get out of that. So I would go in to these conferences and make these these kind of like fake relationships because I only wanted to benefit
Mm.
from whatever they had to better myself and my position, right? And whether I was successful at that or failed at that, it oftentimes led to like emptiness in terms of like it would, that relationship would fade, or it wasn't a true benefit anyway. However, when I started to actually approach things from a standpoint of hey, you know, I know this about you and what you're trying to do, I believe that I can help. So much like the girl from Canada did, was just make the connection, right? Like just make the connection. I always look for little ways to like help people without wanting anything in return. And then what happens is that person will, whether it's a day later, a month later, a years later, will remember what you did for them, right?
Yeah.
And they will either drop your name to someone else and say, hey, Markel's a good person, or hey, you need to meet Markel,
Hmm.
right? And I found that those kind of just like networking, those small gestures have proven the most beneficial and the longest lasting.
And understanding the benefit of doing free work as well, which goes back
Yeah.
to being helpless. Like a lot of kids these days, a lot of, well, it's a lot of the older generation as well. I would say my parents had that thing as well. Like, okay, so how does this directly make you money right now? For example, this like
Right.
years ago when I wanted to get into video production, which we're doing now, and have my own company and all that. Like,
Yeah.
you know, uh, but then I did I had supportive parents. They told me,
Hmm.
you know, prove to me that you get 6 months. We'll help you out. This is after I quit my job at a similar agency, and if you prove to me that you can make a paycheck out of this in 6 months, we'll support you till it's up and running, right? And
Yeah.
that in itself made me just look after. Okay, how do I get in here? Okay, I need to. Oh, here's an opportunity. They need a producer here. Free work, whatever. Started with free work, and from there they're like, oh,
Hmm.
we want to use this person again. What is he doing now? Then you charge them. Like, you don't even need to charge them. You meet people at these events or at these, whatever opportunity you grab that maybe you'll benefit from eventually. But a lot of
Yeah.
people would
How
just jump
how
away like, oh, it's not paid, so let's just let's look for the paid work.
how did you feel about just kind of working for free within those 6 months?
So not
Like,
all
was
of
it
it was
stressful?
free, but
Yeah.
it was getting to a stressful point a few months in because I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get cut off completely. I'm gonna have to get back to my 9 to 5, and
Right.
which is a situation that I didn't necessarily hate, but it's just in that specific organization, I had a vision or a way of doing things that wasn't being supported enough financially. So I was in
Hmm.
charge of a department that dealt with artist management, um, and mostly that, and building up YouTubers. And at some point, things would work that we would do, and they'd get a lot of views and traction. And then the next thing, they're like, okay, now that this got traction, let's go back to doing by the book because we used to do it outside of the book, right? Like in a
Hmm.
very creative way. And that's just in the
Right.
end, there were too many disagreements. It was stressful. Didn't want to get back to that situation. I felt like I had the vision that's gonna work, and that's it. I mean, it did get stressful, but
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
the more people I found that are a lot better than me at certain things in production, I clung on to them and really wanted to learn from them and do work with them for free and learn how they do things too, because I knew I had a good business sense to make it into something that can be profitable.
Yeah, and like when you do things, I found that like whether it's for free or just not with, a huge expectation of return, those people that are helping you want to help you more and give you more wisdom and give you more knowledge,
Yeah,
right?
I get.
Because I feel like almost right, like if someone were just paying you, right, they're just gonna give you, exactly what it's is owed to you, right? Nothing more,
Mm,
nothing less.
yeah,
It's transactional, right? But when I found that when there is kind of like that, just like, oh, this person's working out of the kindness of their heart, like they're more willing to give more, which I found. Have you
yeah.
found like any of that?
It definitely is. It's there's a lot of purity in there where yeah, I do get recommended to people. So I work with people that then work with other clients, and then they say, "Oh,
Hmm.
we know this guy. He did good work the other day." Like, because they see me as a genuine person that they liked working with. Um,
Right.
I guess,
Yeah.
and
But
yeah,
it is. I think that route, and this is, I guess, maybe what I tell myself. is that it may come slower than I would want it to,
Mm-hmm.
but when it comes, right, when that success comes, it's going to like really hit and really be meaningful, because there's a lot of people I feel that can take different business approaches to success, right, whether they get help or not, and just rise to the top instantly. And I used to like
Mm-hmm.
look at and compare myself to those people that are rising faster than me, but I've gotten accustomed to just like, it's all good. Like whenever I see that, I try to not judge that person or and their path to
Yeah.
getting, you know, fast success or instant success. And I just like, okay, it's all good. Like, but my time will come. It's all good. Like it'll like good things will happen. Just that I put that and I set my mindset to that. And oftentimes it works out. So
Mm-hmm. And as long as it keeps working out, why
yeah.
change it, right?
Right. Right.
That's
Right.
the
Exactly.
How did you get introduced to Francis Ngannou? And when? How did you end up working with him?
Yeah, so one of the benefits, right, when I came over on the agent side, on the representation side, was that I knew UFC, right, inside and out, having worked there. So with my
Mm.
relationships, I just knew of the fighters that were on the rise, right, and Francis Ngannou was one of them. And when I set my own like kind of business plan when I started there, and I said, you know what, I want to represent a heavyweight, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because heavyweight is king in
King
combat
division.
sports,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
Right. You know, whether UFC or boxing or whatever. And I felt like Francis Ngannou was going to be a huge star and a huge champion. And like he had everything that I kind of wanted to represent in a client. And meaning not only are they good at their sport, but they're a good human being.
Mm-hmm.
Because like again, the way that I operate, like I don't care like how successful they are. Like I just can't deal with assholes. You
Mm-hmm.
know, sorry for my language on your
You can,
podcast,
you
but
can, yeah, you can
okay,
go for
yeah,
it.
I don't have the time or patience to deal with just bad human beings.
Yeah,
Like I
yeah, yeah.
just won't do it. You know, so I reached out to one of my old colleagues at UFC. I said, "Hey, do you have a way for me to get in touch with Francis Ngannou? I want to reach out." And I got his number, and I reached out to Francis. He was actually in Paris at the time. There was obviously a huge like language barrier, right, through
Yeah.
text. and
That's
I
tough.
just said, yeah, and I just say, hey, you know, just introduce myself a little bit. Didn't mention too much about the agency because I don't like that, like using the weight of like, oh, I'm
So you
CAA.
want to
Here's
use
my
your personality, your yourself more as a, because you're gonna be the one directly in touch with them, and
right.
yeah,
Always, right. Like I'm my biggest business card, right? Like not
yeah,
like CAA doesn't define me. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
what I do. Right, I define myself. So I was just trying to just take a human approach and just said, hey, like I'd love to meet you, and if there's ever an opportunity, I'm happy to fly out to where he is. I wasn't trying to fly out to Paris, but he said, he was like, I'm actually going to be in Vegas. I'm moving to Vegas soon.
Mm.
So I said, okay, great. I lived in Vegas. I'm 4 hours away, 45-minute plane ride. So we actually ended up meeting for the first time at the Wynn Hotel. We had lunch together. Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah,
And then you so from there, like, what do you, what was your vision basically for him? Because I thought, like, now it seems like you really put your money on him as the next big thing. Like you sort of saw that happening, and now he's in, about to, he could fight for the title.
yeah.
Like,
I what I saw is
what I'm asking
okay.
is, I guess, what's the approach? What was the approach with him at that point to get him to where
Right.
he is now and where he's gonna go?
Yeah, the approach, and I'll have to back up to, you know, when I first met him, and you know, I had this presentation that I put together, and having been working at CAA for I think just a few months at the time, I just knew that CAA has so many resources that it like a star like a Francis only comes so often, right?
Mm.
And it would be a huge, huge miss if he weren't able to tap into those resources that a CAA has, right? Whether it be movies, whether it be
Mm.
foundation stuff, whether it be whatever. Like CAA touches the world from brands to content, everything, right? They
Yeah.
run it, you know. And so that approach was just like, hey, you have to look at your career as like a conglomerate. Like you can't look at it as just fighting, right? And I've
Mm.
had this conversation with multiple people. Like CAA is not for everyone, right?
Mm.
But those athletes that want more for themselves after their career, during their career, a place like CAA is only advantageous to them, right? Like if Francis and I had that conversation at the Win, and he said, "Hey, I just want to fight, man. I just love to fight," then I would have said, "It was a pleasure meeting you, man. I will be in your corner. I'm rooting for you. Best of luck," right? But Francis laid out his vision and his ideas. And this guy, and you guys, a lot of people don't know this about him, but he's super business minded. I mean, like this guy wants to be in business like globally. I'm talking about owning products, owning dealerships. Like he wants to talk to, all these business people. He wants to be in movies. He wants to have a production company. Like all these things. The list is endless in terms of his ideas,
I
right?
gathered, and
And
there's
that's what
just a
it. Yeah,
few. Sorry, continue.
yeah. No, go ahead.
Ah, yeah, there's just a few people like that, and what separates the greats from the really good ones, where
Right.
yeah, you build a brand around the person. You are the brand, and sort of use that to elevate other businesses. You're thinking about the long term because you can't fight forever. For example,
Correct.
speak of Conor McGregor as well. With his brands such, and well,
Yeah.
Floyd Mayweather. You go to boxing. He's got
Yep.
he's tapped into many
Yeah.
markets and
Yeah.
great.
And,
So you
and
basically nurture all of those aspects of
mhm.
life and not just the athletic career of the person.
Right. And our approach has always just been okay, because when I signed him, it was right after he lost to Derek Lewis.
Mm.
Right.
And I can't believe he lost. Can't believe he lost
Yeah.
any fights. When you see him,
Right.
you're
Right.
like,
Yeah. Exactly.
how did this
When
guy
you see
lose?
him.
Who beat this guy? Yeah.
Right, right. But when you look into his story, right, he was only been 6 years into
Yeah.
MMA, right? Very young in the
Hmm.
sport, but had such a fast rise. And whether or not UFC put him in too early or whatever, he just wasn't ready for that type of spotlight yet, right?
Hmm.
Not only just on from a fight standpoint, right? Like having to go up against a wrestler in Stipe, right? And having
Yeah.
that type of fight dynamic, and then going into Derek Lewis, where I've had multiple conversations with him. His mind was still on the last fight. He wasn't even
Hmm.
himself. It's kind of like gun shy, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
again, this is a fresh athlete. And but I said, we agreed that, hey, we're just gonna put our heads down, because the talent is the talent, right? I can't get in there and
Yeah.
fight for him. But we're just like, put our heads down, work your ass off in the gym to become better as a mixed martial artist, right? Anyone that they throw in front of us, finish them. You know what I mean? Go out and just make a statement, because they're going to doubt. They're going to say you're a one hit wonder. No pun intended, right?
Mm.
And we have to prove otherwise. And on the back end of that, right? Myself with CAA with certain pieces in place, we're going to try to start working on your brand, right? Working
Mm.
on your brand in the background, because I
Right.
know he knows that he's going to be champ. So
Hmm.
all this stuff we've been setting up that people don't really know about, right? For him to when he's ready, and that's going to come this year when he wins the belt. the lights are gonna turn on,
You
and
think it's
it's
gonna
gonna be
happen
a
this year?
wrap. I know it's gonna happen this year.
No, it's gonna happen.
I know it's gonna happen this year. He's gonna fight. My
Because
my guess for the title in December.
that'd be amazing. I'm looking forward to that one. Because you think Stipe
Mhm.
is just not gonna come back yet, and it's gonna
No,
be vacant and
I
or,
think Stipe and DC are gonna fight.
okay, so
Because DC runs the table. You know what I mean?
mm,
Like DC's the golden child in this Stipe DC thing. Even
yeah.
though Stipe is the champ, UFC isn't fucking with him like that. You know what I mean? Like,
It
and I
seems
think
like
he
it.
knows it. Yeah,
There needs to be a
and
shift at some point.
yeah, there's just
And
got to be a
am I
shift.
wrong? And remember, somewhere at DC, I thought I heard DC say that he doesn't want anything to do with Francis at some point. He's like, I know what, I'll take on anyone, but this is
Right.
back years ago, right?
You
Is
you
it?
caught that. Yeah.
Yeah. Is
He
it?
did. Go
Mm.
ahead.
Oh, I thought like, did he change his mind, or is he still sort of like on the fence about it right now?
In Stipe to fighting Francis.
No, in DC fighting Francis.
Yes,
Yeah,
in
yeah, yeah.
DC fighting Francis. I think DC is a gamer. Like he's a competitor. I love DC. He's actually a nice human being, but
Mm,
he's also very smart. You know
mm,
what I mean? Like he's very
yeah,
smart.
yeah.
And the smart decision, and it's not him being scared or whatever, is to fight Stipe from just a chance of winning standpoint, a legacy standpoint, a money standpoint, a
Mm,
historic standpoint. Like that makes more sense to him. So I'm not really mad at DC, because I know DC is like, no, I'm not trying to get hit by this dude
yeah.
Francis Ngannou. Like Francis is not even at his peak. I think he's 2 fights away from his peak.
Two
From his
fights away.
peak, I think he's peaking, but I think he's two
Yeah.
fights away to where in 2 fights from now, I think his first title defense, you'll see peak Francis Ngannou.
He'd peak faster if
Like,
he stopped knocking people out so quickly. He just went into longer fights, I guess.
right,
Like
right,
that's
right, right.
yeah. I
Exactly,
mean
exactly.
that
But
last fight against Rosenstruck was just it's like I'm just gonna hit him, just get it over with.
yeah,
That's what
you,
it felt
you,
like. Okay.
you know
Anyway,
what's interesting? Like I thought that was going to be his toughest fight in
I
this
thought
in
so.
this
Yeah, because
whole
we're in
track.
the Netherlands here. We know Rosenstruck, and as a kickboxer, like Glory is
Uh,
a big. I'm a boxing fan, and I recently started watching Glory a little bit. But looking at the
mm,
guy's record and his skill set and the way he's, you know,
right,
gotten rid of so
yeah.
many people, it was gonna be tough. I thought.
Yeah, because he has power, just like
Yeah.
Francis. Decorated kickboxer, like years of experience. So we felt like it was going to be a tough fight, but we were confident that we were going to get the victory.
Mm,
And Francis is just, I tell people all the time, I've been around at this stage in my career, I've been around enough fighters and enough like locker room, enough gyms to see like the different level of athlete, right?
mm,
My first time doing like jujitsu Muay Thai, I remember telling my brother, here's a quick example. I was like, oh, like true athletes, and I this is not a diss to MMA fighters, but an athlete in my definition is like they can do it all. Like it's LeBron James can also be a Hall of Fame tight end in the NFL,
mm,
right? Like that's what I mean. I was like, John
mm.
Jones is the best athlete in MMA. And then so my next experience, I was like, when I saw Francis hit and kick, I'm like, there's not a human being on this planet that hits harder than him. I'm like, he's another level. Like not Rosenstruck, not Stipe, none of them.
Think
Not
even
Deontay
in box,
Wilder.
not Deontay Wilder.
No, no
Honestly,
chance.
I do think Francis beats Deontay Wilder because
Francis Ngannou knocks Deontay Wilder out.
I want to see that.
And I'm a Deontay Wilder fan, but I'm telling you,
Mm,
it's a different level. Like people don't
damn,
understand until they're actually in there. Look at what he did to
make
Rosenstruck.
yeah, 20 seconds. But those are 4 ounce gloves, right?
Right, for 4 ounce gloves.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm telling you, that power, like what you guys are
Damn.
seeing, Deontay Wilder has power like no one's seen before in the boxing world.
Yeah,
But
I
he's
believe so.
also, I think when he fought Tyson Fury the first time, he was what, 220 pounds,
Something
right?
like that.
And he still has a ton of power, which is great. But I'm telling you, Francis Ngannou is 265 pounds, like shredded,
And he is
and
quick.
yeah, he has like African strength, like
And
like
he has
like
Dewey
that's
Cooper
another
now. I saw
level
Dewey
of
Cooper was
strength.
there. I thought like, okay, maybe
Yeah,
he
he's really
will get
really.
rid of Rosenstruck.
Oh yeah, yeah. Dewey, Eric Nixick, man, like those two coaches in particular, because I know them personally.
Hmm.
They're amazing, amazing coaches and great human beings, especially for athlete like Francis. Francis
That's
doesn't run in
important.
big circles, right? He has again he comes from a different culture, a different mindset,
Hmm.
right? A different and what happened to him when he lost to Stipe was tough on him mentally, right? He
Yeah,
he really had to do some soul searching to come back from that. And I'm very fortunate to kind of be in his corner. Like I'm no MMA coach, right? Like
hmm,
I can't like
true. You were in the corner, right?
yeah
This
yeah
is like
I'm in his corner,
like the
because I
mental sort of aspect of it, maybe, right?
yeah I mean I don't know, you'd have to ask him, but I'd like to think so. But also if nothing else, I think that we all just get along and it's just all just good energy. It's not an ounce of selfishness in that locker
That is
room
amazing.
with between us four. Not an ounce. We all want to see Francis Ngannou just realize his dreams. Because I think
Hmm.
you see it. I think the world sees it. He's going to be champion. I believe that
I
with
believe
every
so.
fiber
Yeah,
of my being.
I'm gonna
And I
bet on
think
it
he's going
too.
to hold it for a long time. He's going to be UFC champion, and then he's going to be a boxing champion. There you go.
Wow.
There you
Hey,
go. You heard it here.
I do. If it happens, I hope it happens, man. Like that,
Save this clip, not if, when.
when it
Save
happens,
this clip
right?
and play it on your Instagram. He will be a
Cool.
boxing champion.
Definitely will.
Yeah,
We'll do that. And
yeah,
this goes back to the business side of things now. Again, we're back to
hmm
business. Really back.
yeah,
It's the people you surround yourself with, right?
yeah.
How pivotal has that been to your success? Like how
Man, it's
have you also recently gotten rid of any? Have you lost touch with people recently just because of the negativity or their mindset was just not right for you? Or
from UFC. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. With any career, just in life in general, you're gonna fall in and out of relationships,
yeah,
and you start to figure out how you are as a person and professional, and how other people can be as a person and professional. So I've fallen out with many people, not many, but I would say for reasons of just the humanistic aspects of it. I
mm,
think that some people fall in love with an idea of themselves, or an idea of what their role is, right? Like for example, when you work for a CAA type company, whether it's
mm,
Endeavor or UFC, you start to feel that power, right? Like I'd be remiss if I felt like, oh, I don't feel a little bit better because I work at CAA.
mm,
But I try to humble myself and realize that before CAA, I'm still Marquel Martin, right? And I firmly believe that, and because I experienced this with UFC, I try to be. I'm not a perfect human being by any imagination, but
mm,
when I went back, having worked at UFC, right, we're all like a family, right?
right.
And then you get laid off by UFC. You think you can go back and be like, "Hey, what's up, family? How's it going?"
Oh no, there is
Some
gonna
no, 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 no.
be.
Some people were looking at me like I was the devil, or didn't want anything to do with me, and it's crazy to me.
But
I'm like, wait, didn't we just work together? Didn't we just, I was just at your party, your birthday party,
but
or
these are
whatever.
people you used to work with, not the new people that came in. I'm talking about,
Uh, oh yeah, yeah. People. I mean,
and they're looking at
I'm sure.
you with
Just
animosity.
yeah, with I don't know if it was animosity or I went through the cycles of grief and all that. I'm like, okay, like are they mad at me, think I did something wrong? Are they jealous, or are they, just like think I'm a traitor, like, or are they just like, hey, because I'm on the other side that
Yeah,
we can't still be friends? And I'm just like, okay, that's crazy to me. But I mean, like, people sometimes get these egos of their business card, right? Like when they
yeah,
go to Whole Foods, right, in the grocery store, they're still, I'm UFC exec, I'm CAA agent, right? No, no, no,
right.
no. Like, don't get it twisted. Like, I had to tell someone, I had an argument with someone at I think they're at CAA or worked at CAA. Not an argument, but I was just explaining, like, I hate that people wear this badge as if like it's a Superman cape.
Yeah,
Like, because some agents or executives or people at UFC will talk down to others that are a lesser title or
yeah,
whatever, right? So therefore they translate that into the real world, and the real world and my world doesn't work like that. You know what I mean? Like, at the end of
mhm,
the day, if I saw you, Nick, at a grocery store, I expect you to treat me the same in professional or just public environment,
yeah,
and as I would to you, you know.
yeah. I don't get this
But
whole thing where you
yeah,
know just because there's a homeless man sitting next to the grocery store over here, and I always make it a point to talk to him at least, maybe give
that's
him
awesome.
something. We don't always just give him something. Sometimes they crave the conversation, right? Because everyone
Right.
else is looking down at them, and it turns out this guy has a super interesting life story, and he
Really.
just due to an unfortunate circumstances, and okay, there was drugs involved too that just ruined his career, but the guy was flourishing
Yeah.
at some point, that like we're
Wow.
all humans, and some people get lucky and get out of the slump and others don't, and that's the mindset that a lot of people I think forget, and they get so consumed with their job and their work that becomes them.
Yeah. I
And
I
it's
I
different.
refuse to do that. Yeah.
I mean, sorry, but the last point, like to me it's different to be your own brand and to be consumed by your job. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, 100%. Like, I learned that from UFC, because again, like,
Mm.
I was young, I was coming up at UFC, like, Dana had bought me my very first suit, and it was an expensive suit, and I felt,
Oh yeah.
great. And then when I lost it all, I realized that, I'm the strength, not UFC, right? Like, UFC
Yeah.
is, like, can't dictate my life. CAA can't dictate my life, right?
Yeah.
So I have a responsibility to myself to just try to be the best person that I can be, and and just try to treat other people the way that I would like to be treated. You saying hi to that homeless man, whether you give him money or not, it doesn't matter. But
Yeah.
that homeless man probably, like, sees you, and it has a positive impact on him. Like, some people I see, won't even look at homeless people in the eye.
Yeah.
you
Yeah. Yeah.
know
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's just, it's just crazy. So, it's a crazy, I'm still learning in this agent space, because even it was funny to me, because being at my first event, with like Francis, and you see other managers and agents, and there's like this unspoken, like, tension.
Maybe
And
competition as
it's
well. Like, oh, we're about to negotiate. I need to keep my poker face on. And
I
that
I
whole.
I,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just so fucking weird to me. But like, because I also try to look at it as like, guys, like, relax. Like, we're still in a niche sport. Like, don't act like we're
Mhm.
the Rich Pauls of the world. You know what I mean? Or the
Mhm.
Drew Rosenhauses of the world, which are power agents. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
even the biggest MMA agent isn't scratching the surface of a lot of these big super agents, right? So I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. Yeah.
let's keep things into perspective, and just like, let's do our jobs, man, and just keep it
It's
pushing.
such a cultural thing as well. I feel. I
Yeah,
mean, in the
it
States,
is.
there's a way of doing things. Here in the Netherlands, so I grew up in the Middle East. I'm half Jordanian, I'm half Middle Eastern
Ah,
actually,
okay.
and there it's very I have to become your friend sort of before I start doing business with you, and that's the way I grew up, and it sort of translates to. I guess now I found a hybrid.
Right.
Still humanizing the people you're working with. Whereas in the Netherlands, I was shocked sometimes when I'm going to these meetings and the person is like, okay, so we want this and this and this, and what can you give us, and how much is it gonna cost? And it's so direct, immediately jumping straight to it. And there's no like, I want to learn anything about you. You're a tool for me to get to the next thing.
Right,
So
right.
did you
That's
do you
crazy.
feel that when you're doing business? I don't know how much you're doing business with outside of the States. I guess.
No, no, not too much outside of the States. I mean, obviously, from a cultural standpoint, like I'm still like learning how that is, right? Like some
Yeah.
people, I think it was, I don't know if it was a Russian group because we have, offices in London and UK
Yeah.
and in Germany and stuff like that, and and they were just telling me that like sometimes business is just straight up, like it's very transactional, it's short, sweet, direct to the point. It's like, what can you give me, and then I'll say yes in return.
Mm,
And I don't try to change that, like because I can't, like I'll
yeah.
always be the same way, even if it's a person that's very direct. I'll still be like, hey, how you doing, how's your day, and that's just me. I do find a huge difference again in the MMA community. Like I think it's, maybe, I don't know if it's so much testosterone, or everyone, for the
Maybe.
most part, either has been a fighter, wants to be a fighter, thinks they're a fighter, and so they feel like they have to come with this level of like toughness. You know what
Mm,
I mean?
can't
And
break
I
face.
I view that as like weakness. I personally do. Like I'm so surprised I'm in the MMA world, right? Like I don't fit in. Like if the MMA community was a playground,
Mm.
I'm the kid off into the
You're
corner hanging out by himself, right? Like, and it's not like I'm
not a
better
bad
or
thing, huh?
worse or anything. Yeah, I'm not better or worse or anything. Like
Mm,
I'm just a person who ended up in the MMA industry, but I
yeah.
don't try to say, hey, I'm a super MMA head guy, and I live and breathe the gym, and I train
Mm,
every day. Like, no, like I'm a businessman. You know what I mean? Trying to
right.
go about business the right way. So I'm hoping that it changes at some point, because again, I'm around the best, period, the best agents in the world, and I'm fortunate to be around what I
Yeah.
see them do every day, and how they conduct business every day is so light years different than how MMA is ran today. And I hope that we see MMA transition on the business side to that professionalism one day. So we'll
Perfect.
see.
It is the fastest growing sport, they say.
Yeah,
So I mean,
yeah.
like, so what else have you got going on? Because you don't seem satisfied just doing one thing, all over and over and again.
No,
And we're the same in that sense, I guess.
yeah, man. I've always just been, trying. Yeah, me personally, I can't just do one thing and just, I love to try as many things. I feel like people are born with multiple gifts. So for you to not to explore those, you're doing yourself a disservice. So me, I love to talk, obviously. So just recently started a podcast called Moves Podcast. And basically,
Mhm.
it's just me and my friend that, we want to highlight people that we feel are making moves, because again, I'm still relatively young, and my co-host Miles is young, and
Mhm.
as we've been growing up, just as professionals, we've been seeing people, our peers, like, and we'll talk about them like, yo, did you know that this person just did X, Y, and Z? Like that's crazy.
You
Like
just
that's a major move,
put
right?
them in the
Like,
spotlight, so to say.
right. So yeah, we want to put those people on the spotlight that are making moves in their industry, and we want to understand like those moves, right? Like
Yeah.
I live professionally. I go by I always say is chestnut checkers, right? Like
Mm.
with Francis, it's chestnut checkers, right?
Yeah.
Meaning that, to me, that what that means is do strategic things along the way, to where at some point down the road you'll be able to say, okay, checkmate,
Yeah.
right? And we're getting close to that with Francis. That's how I approach business. It's not about, fast and just down and dirty. But I'm like, okay, how strategically, what makes the most sense? What's going to be the best next move for us to make to see the bigger picture? So I'm always trying to think 3-4 moves ahead, like in chess, right? With my clients and their future. So I'm doing Moves podcast. So that's fun, a weekend hobby of mine. And outside of that, just really focusing on how I can elevate, all of my clients' brands, not just Francis, right? I think Francis is top of mind in a lot of people's mind when it comes to my career and stuff, because he's popped like the soonest, right? The guy's on a tear, right? Yeah, so he's kind of the on that cusp of stardom. So we're excited to see what happens next, whether it's a title shot, whether it's a super fight. And yeah, man, just trying to make big splashes. I got some big visions, big plans, and before it's all said and done, I want to look back and smile and said, oh, okay, we did that. We set that up long ago.
Would you see it as obviously people helped you out, but would you see it as a personal victory of, I kind of mostly did this on my own?
Yeah, I think you'd be lying if I think anyone would be lying if they said that, a little bit of your business has to feel personal, right? And you want to justify those small wins and say, I never feel like it's just only me, but let's say when I'm in the octagon with Francis, right? Like I'm going to be so happy for him, and I'm also going to be happy for myself, because like all the trials and tribulations that I've gone through and we've gone through. And I told Francis actually one time, I'm like, look, man, like anyone would be honored to represent you, you know what I mean? And I'm never naive to that fact. Like I don't understand why managers just think that they're just like the end all be all. And I'm just like, no, anyone would be honored to and that's why you see so much shystiness, right? Like people will try to steal your client or say bad things about myself or whatever. I'm like, Francis, I can't control that, but at the end of the day, like I'm hoping that, Francis is one of my clients that make it big. Zion Williamson, I don't know if you know, basketball, right? Biggest guy since LeBron James, right? In the NBA, right? His agent, Austin Brown, one of his agents, his point agent, Austin Brown, great dude, my colleague, also works at CAA. You think Austin Brown doesn't have a feeling of self-pride because he represents arguably the greatest basketball player since LeBron James, right? Like Michael Jordan, if you watch the Last Dance, like you see Michael Jordan's agent
I'm on episode 5, no spoilers, please.
Oh, okay, sorry. Yeah. Right. You see all of that. So that's how I kind of see it. Is like, every agent, every big agent has that one client that breaks for them. And then they end up having multiple clients that are superstars. And I feel like I'm in a position, and I'm grateful and honored to be in that position to where, hey, Francis is like my first big client, right? On that stage. Look at The Rock. I think Francis has the opportunity to be like The Rock. You know what I mean? Like the Rock of Africa at the very least.
Yeah.
Like that'll be amazing.
That's a whole thing. You need to really grow your brand as a fighter. I notice you just need to be backed by a whole country, right? Once you get a country or a continent in this case behind you, then you have superstar power. Like Manny Pacquiao is royalty, and is something divine in the Philippines, and in that way Francis can grow, and that'd be an even bigger audience.
Yeah, so that's why hopefully UFC, Dana White, man, if you see this, take us to Africa. Let's go UFC Africa.
You
got Izzy, you got Kamaru, you got Francis on there.
Oh, they'll be
all gonna be champions. Can you imagine that? That would be insane.
Yeah,
that would be wild. So
and throw Anthony Joshua in there in the MMA, and then he can fight Francis in boxing later.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? We would welcome that with open arms.
That'd be
I think again from a business standpoint, Eddie Hearn and those guys know better than to put Anthony Joshua in an
dope.
octagon,
Yeah.
but just keep him in the ring, keep him looking good. You're right.
Exactly. Yeah. Don't
that
lose your
that's
face.
his moneymaker. Yeah,
Yeah.
don't lose your face because that's a different world. But even that'll be interesting to see once Francis transitions into boxing. Um, him doing both MMA and boxing will be fun to see.
Awesome.
Yeah,
And you've got a cookie business too.
I had
You had.
well I still have the IP of the cookie business. The
Mm,
cookie business I started on the side while working at UFC
mm.
because I love cookies. I actually have Cookie Monster tatted
Oh,
on me, right?
well, that's a good
So
tat.
it's
Yeah.
yeah, so it's a real thing. So I had a cookie business. We had a commissary kitchen in Vegas. We're getting ready to launch our online store. We're doing like private events and things like that. And that's when I found out about my heart. So I had to stop the cookie business. But I'll pick it back up soon. It's called
Go
Social
for it,
Cookie.
man.
Because I love having cookie and wine, cookies and wine. That's
Oh,
the
I'm gonna
pairing.
try that.
That's
I
how
don't
you
think I
do
ever
it.
have.
A good chocolate chip with like a cab or
Mm,
like a Pinot, very good.
grab a
But yeah,
pen. Gotta write it
there you
down.
go. There you go. I'm telling you, girls.
Chocolate
I'm
chip.
not sure if you're married or single or whatever, but the ladies love that combination, cookies and wine.
Yeah, we're in quarantine, man. After quarantine, I'm definitely gonna try that out.
How long are
Yeah,
you guys in quarantine?
it's been. Oof, I think it's been 90 days now,
Are
almost.
they lifting it? No, I'm saying
It's
like,
lifted. Yeah, 1st of June. Things are changing, and now there's already
oh,
rules
okay,
changed and stuff. But like non-essential stores are open. You can buy clothes again,
got
and
got it.
but you got public transport. You got to travel with a face mask on.
Oh, okay,
So
okay,
that's gonna be
yeah.
mandatory. But people haven't been listening much. Uh, People have been outside more in quarantine because
Yeah.
I my gym's closed and I miss boxing and everything, so I have to go on runs. And I find
Uh,
my entire gym chilling together in the park doing their workouts. See everybody
do,
running. It's
do you
full.
run with a mask on or off?
No, so that's off.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I run with it off. Yeah, I was at the beach the other day and at Newport Beach,
Mm.
and it was packed. Yeah, no one had a mask. No one had a mask on.
Yeah, that's what happened in Florida. I read they opened the beach for 1 day and then they had the fastest rise in cases. The whole like ah nothing.
Yeah,
I don't know why. Like
it's
nothing.
interesting, man.
Bad news always comes from Florida.
Yeah. I took that test though, and where they put the
Oh
swab
yeah.
all the way up to your
True.
brain for the UFC. We had to do that.
Yeah. I saw every fighter was posting about it. What's
Yeah.
that experience like? Because I'm kind of apprehensive about trying it.
I thought it was pretty cool. I thought it was great. It
Just
of course it tickles a little bit, but some
okay,
people
but
react to it differently, and
yeah.
I was fine. It is what it is.
I mean, you're good.
Like,
That's
yeah,
what's important, man.
yeah.
So I mean, where does your entrepreneurial spirit come from? You think?
My dad, for sure, because he started his own just barbershop back in
Mm,
the day and owned a hair salon. So he did men and women's hair growing up, and we had our own barbershop growing up, and that's what I kind of saw. And he always told me and my brothers just the importance of being able to make your own money when
mm-hmm.
you want and need, right? So
The
having a
backups, at
barbershop,
least.
you can always go out and people are always going to need a haircut, right?
Yeah.
And it's
We've
it's
seen
not
now,
someone.
especially
Yeah,
as
yeah,
soon as they
exactly.
open, man, I went.
Yeah, right. So I've always just looked at my dad as kind of that example of being able to set your own schedule, being able to make your own money at when you
Mm,
need with a skill. So I always love that, and I've tried to start multiple business from a cookie business to clothes to,
Mm.
like everything in between. And I'll always have that entrepreneurial spirit again, because I just feel like everyone is so talented and gifted. Like I'm not, even though I'm grateful to have, my the way that I provide for myself and my family is, CAA, being an agent, right?
Yeah.
But does that mean that, I don't want to pursue anything else and shouldn't have the right to? And, like, no, that's crazy. I feel like if you have the work ethic to do it, and, you know,
I'd always
try to start something.
push people to have several streams of income. Because what if
Yeah.
now we get in a new pandemic situation, people losing their jobs? What's your other stream?
Right.
What are you
Right.
gonna do if you're in a country where the government isn't gonna help you? And a lot of countries are lucky, like, you get some aid, but most countries don't have that.
Right.
It's
Yeah,
it,
exactly.
and also
You know,
about mentally, it's just more satisfying.
security.
It's security. It's,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
something you
Yeah.
enjoy doing.
Right.
So
Yeah.
why would
That
you
you're
waste your time
passionate
doing
about.
something you don't want to do?
Right,
Right?
exactly. And it's hard, right, to find that balance, right? Because like
Yeah.
with a job, with a 9 to 5, there's like insurance and there's security and there's benefits, and I've succumbed to that oftentimes, right? Like I'm in a
Mm.
position to where I have a corporate job, and there is some level of security, right? Provided that as long as I do my job and do it well, I will keep that job and keep those benefits. And
Mm. Yeah.
entrepreneurial, it's so like you just don't know anything. You don't know where your
It-
next meal is going to come from, like how you're going to get this, when your next business partner is going to come in,
yeah.
like how that's going to go. So it's scary, but in that, like you said, like it depends on the person and their personality. I love that kind of challenge, and I love
Yeah.
that kind of vibe of like, just feeling like, hey, I'm trying something and I don't know if I'm going to fail or succeed,
Mm.
you know?
The whole the game of cracking the code and learning as you go, and yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
just
Like watching a lot of people like do things online, and just like this person is now a multi-millionaire and they just, started this company, and you're kind of like, look at them like, oh, I could have done that. But
I
I
came up with
love
that
seeing
idea
that.
5 years ago.
Right, right, exactly.
Yeah.
But it's something about that person that made them just go after it. So I love that type of, and I think because I'm an athlete, or was an athlete, played sports all my life, that I view that competition and that like grind of pushing yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that translates into just the entrepreneurial world, and I love those aspects of it. I don't know.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
You still got some time, or
Yeah.
a
I'm
little
good.
bit?
I just have a call in 10 minutes, but I'm
10 minutes.
straight.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
because this is one big realization I had. Maybe you had the same thing, which, during quarantine, was I realized, okay, everything is on pause. Everyone is on pause. Everyone is level again.
Yep.
Competition is out the window for a second. I realized I was too caught up being stressed about money projects or the projects that actually, bring the biggest paychecks in, that I completely
Right.
forgot what it is that I love to do and why I set this company up. And I
Right.
went back to doing that purely without an income, not a direct income behind it. And my anxiety and stress is gone, you know, despite the money being less.
Mhm.
Going back to that pureness of enjoying what you do is the most important. And now I'm finding ways to maneuver to, make that
Money.
profitable.
That's awesome, man. Like that's inspiring for me to hear, because
I'm
I'm
glad.
experiencing it with the podcast, right? It's like,
Mm.
like, oh, like it's slow to like pick up and things like that. But
Mm.
it's just like one of those things, like where you said like everything's kind of leveled out, and you can pursue these things, and even though it may not bring the big paychecks or whatever, you just love to do it, and
Hmm.
sooner or later that money will
Exactly.
come.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll put a link down as well for your podcast,
Yeah. Okay.
and then we'll
Awesome,
just
man. Thank you.
promote that
Thank you,
as
man.
well.
Yeah.
Right.
I want to pick your brain on some things and just learn more about you and your business, and
Cool.
pick your brain, man. I would love that.
Sure.
You seem like a real good dude.
Oh, thanks.
Shoot, my boss.
Same.
Yeah,
It,
thank you so much for having
keep it
me
posted.
on.
No, I
I
really
really
appreciate you
appreciate it.
coming on.
I had a good time, man. All right,
Same.
brother.
Same.
Talk to you
Hey,
soon, okay?
talk to you soon.